you, Never You BGM, back in this thing. So today I want to talk to you about the deck that won the Shiva event over this past weekend, January, what is today? The 20th, so January 17th, January 18th, I believe. Wait, 18th, 19th. I don't know if it was a 2-day event. I just know it happened over the last weekend. Anyway, so the deck that won was lightning water monsters. So I remember specifically saying that lightning water monsters, or not lightning water monsters, just monsters in general, were gonna be just a ridiculous deck, way past the point of like anything anybody was thinking about, because monsters are, one, just really difficult to interact with. Two, they can become forwards, and then with this Witch of the Fens card, they just like reach another level. It's insane. So gonna dive into this deck, give you my opinions, and yeah, I'll be interested to see what you all think as you look over the video. Some of these prices are just ridiculous. All right, so first card, 3 of lightning water lightning. She has haste. When she enters the field, choose 1 forward your opponent controls, dull it, draw a card. And then you can pay lightning and water, remove 1 card named lightning and 1 card named Odin in the break zone from the game, play lightning onto the field. You can only use this ability during your turn and if lightning is in the break zone. So this is obviously a lightning card, so I'm gonna give it a good look regardless, because she's my favorite character. But the dulling of a card and then the drawing of a card, so you get to get something out of the way, get an extra resource back for the cost of 1 lightning CP and 1 water CP, as long as there's a lightning card and an Odin in the break zone. And it looks like this deck runs 6 lightnings and 6 Odins, so that shouldn't be too hard. So you can do it essentially relatively 5 times if none of the Odins go to EX and none of the lightnings go to damage. I'm sorry, not EX, damage. And if they're on 6 points of damage, this card potentially pushes for game. So this card is Opus 18 Legend, and I think it's like $30 a copy now. I'll make a separate video going over some prices of some things, but this card is just insane for a couple reasons. 1, it has haste. 2, it's a 2 cost, so if you were running something that just spits out 2 costs or gets back 2 cost cards, then she really could be looped in a sense, because there's, I don't know the name of the card, I think it's an Ash that can send a card back to the hand every turn on your side. So you could just essentially loop this card and pretty much get like resources back every turn, as long as you have a water and lightning CP to play. I don't foresee this card ever getting pushed away from decks that run water lightning, just because of how ridiculous this card is. I don't like, it's just, this card is just good on so many levels because it provides so many things. It gets rid of a threat temporarily, draws a card, and then if they do blow it up or destroy it, you can just bring it back from your break zone at any given point on your turn if you need to. So let's say you have this lightning out, 3 cost water lightning. When lightning enters the field, choose 1 forward. If the number of forwards your opponent controls is greater than the number of forwards you control, remove it from the game. And then the special is just throw away a copy of lightning, remove lightning from the game, play lightning onto the field at the end of the turn. So I'm just a off the cuff player, so I'm the type of person that would remove lightning from the game, and still I would attack with this joint. If they don't block, if they do block, whatever. Use this special regardless. Let's say they don't block. Go for damage. Use the special, remove her, and then pay this water and pay this lightning CP to play lightning from the break zone. Play this, dull something else that may be in my way, and then swing for 2 points of damage. This lightning is not coming back, but if I could somehow get this one back to my hand, I have essentially made a loop for these two. And that's just the way I think of things. But, that's just me. That's just an insane way to not only get a card back, duel something, and potentially get 2 points of damage. Granted, the situations have to be accurate and correct, but that's just what time I'm on. Which of the fins? I hope this price is for the full art, because if this is for the standard card, then goodness, we're in trouble. Which of the fins? When she enters the field, if you control a monster, draw a card. Put one monster in the break zone. You can put one monster you control pretty much in the break zone. Choose one forward, it loses 7,000 power. Now, the fact that this isn't once per turn on any of these effects is insane. Because the drawing cards is always good in any card game. Don't let anybody tell you differently. If you can draw more cards, you're drawing into more resources. More resources mean more fortitude, more power, more defenses, all that good stuff. What makes this card good is some of these monsters can be turned into forwards. So you can attack with the monster. If they block, use which it offends the effect, hit something else for 7k, will make it lose 7k, and if it's under the threshold of 7k or less, it gets broken, and you don't even have to worry about really the defense of a card. And also it kind of bluffs your opponent into you getting extra knowledge, because let's say they have a wall of 5 forwards and you have to get through. If you attack with something, you kind of get knowledge, because it kind of shows you the process of what they're thinking as far as what they're going to block with first. And any knowledge you can gain in war is really everything you need. So this card facilitates a lot. It gives you a bunch of knowledge, it gives you card draws, and then it gives you like really a head start in any form of the main phase, the battle phase, because you kind of have the control as long as you have monsters on the field. And then it's also a very beautiful card. So I don't like this card is just insane. And for it to be a hero, which just means it's really kind of accessible to grab, because heroes are more printed in a box, more so than legends. This card's pretty good. Realm. When Realm enters the field, search for up to one monster of cost 1 and one monster of cost 2 and play them onto the field. At the end of each of your turns, choose one forward your opponent controls. If you control 5 or more monsters, return to the owner's hand. This is good because it lets you get 2 monsters, which is almost, actually, let's see, that's 1, that's 1, 2, that's 3 CP on the monster side, or 4 CP if you're discarding from the hand. So she pays for herself on entry, almost, and then at the end of each of your turns, as long as you have 5 more monsters, she sends something back to the hand on your opponent's side, forward wise, which essentially pays for herself over time, because they have to pay CP to bring it back. This happens at the end phase, they can't respond to it. Best thing they can do is cancel her abilities or blow her up. So I This is really a good card. I don't even have any of these, and I need to get some, but I don't know how much they are now. I don't even know if this price is accurate, but if this is true, like, this is a really good card, and it's not getting reprinted in Legacy Collection, I don't believe. So this card is really good for monsters, and I'm sure at some point there's going to be a card that lets you reduce the cost of her, of water forwards. So if you can get her to 4 to 3, or if you can play her for free, then she's really going to be a problem. It's a really good card. Arania. Whew. She has haste, first strike, and she has EX bust. When she enters the field, choose 1 forward to cost 3 or less your opponent controls, break it. At damage 5, when she enters the field, do the same thing except cost 5 or less your opponent controls, break it. I've always been on this card. This card's always been good. 1, it's a Dragoon. 2, she has haste and first strike. She has 9,000. And then at damage 5, she's popping potentially 2 things, getting rid of 2 threats. And if you have 2 more in your deck and you take damage for damage 6 and she's that damage 6, she's popping another thing for 3 or less. So this card's really insane. Crazy that this was a starter deck card. This is really just a wall of protection. This is one of those things where you hit damage 5 and you're like, all right, I gotta get back in control of the game. I mean, this hits Chaos, this hits Warrior of Light, this hits a whole bunch of things that are a problem. Let's say if you're doing the mirror match, this hits Witch of the Fens. They got to get rid of 2 monsters to stop her, which it doesn't stop the effect, but I mean, it stops the attack of the threat. So I mean, she's just insane. 9,000 puts her at a really good threshold to where she can deal with a lot of things, and with her being a Dragoon, she can just loop in so many other decks as well. So really good card. Let's go to the summons. If you have received 5 points of damage, the cost to cast Odin is reduced by 3. And then EX Burst, choose a forward of cost 5 or less, break it. So this is the Opus 13 Odin, and I'm assuming this price is the full art price. This card is, Odin's just a hard card to mess up. There are some weaker iterations of Odin throughout the FFTCG, but this has been one of those cards that's kind of been a staple in a lot of decks that run Lightning, just because 1, he's good in damage 5 post, and he's a EX burst, and he's breaking 5 or less. And 4 is really the threshold for a lot of good cards, but 5 just gives you that tip of the iceberg, because I mean, you can hit stuff like Realm if you need to. So yeah, so good card. Obviously, Leviathan's here. Choose up to 2 of the following actions. Choose 1 forward your opponent controls, return to the hand. Choose 1 light of dart forward, put it at the top of the owner's deck. Choose 1 water forward in your break zone, add it to your hand. So this Leviathan works in a couple good ways, because it gets rid of chaos. It gets rid of a threat your opponent's side of the field if it needs to, and then if you need to get the witch back, the cost 3 lightning back, the lightning water lightning back, you can. And you can start that loop I was telling you about. So this is a solid card. It's always going to be a solid card just because of what it does. And yeah, I don't if they make a Leviathan more stronger than this as a summon, then it's gonna be rough. Opus 23 Odin. This is the one before you cast it, you can remove 6 cards in your break zone to reduce the cost of this by 6, and this one just breaks a forward flat out. I would rather hit this in EX Burst than really ever have to play it, but in this deck it doesn't look like that's really a concern, because you got 3 of these lightnings that count as a lightning, 3 of these Arenaeas, 3 of these, 3 of these. Let's see, you got 4 monsters, so that's what, 3, 6, 9, 12, 16, 17, 18, 21. So just about half the deck is lightning cards. But depending on the strategy and what you're going against, obviously you want to keep as many resources as possible. Right now, well, I hadn't got to the backups. I don't see anything that's looping things from the break zone back to hand, so this may be useful to use from hand using your break zone. But we'll see after we get to the backups. Apkalu, just a standard strong monster, costs 1. When it enters the field, draw a card. Replaces itself if you have no backups to pay CP. A great witch target to really just send to the break zone for 7k damage. There's nothing really else to say about that. Marlboro, this came out in Opus 24, Hidden Legends. When one or more forwards you control attacks, you may put Marlboro into the break zone. When Marlboro is put from the field into the break zone until the end of the turn, all of the forwards your opponent controls loses all their abilities and 3,000 power. So this is ridiculous, because if you got 2 of these joints on board, you just attack with one of your forwards, send both to the break zone. Everything's losing 6k. They have no abilities. Obviously, it has to resolve first before they lose their abilities and the damage. But this puts the whole field on lock, because if they don't do anything before you attack and have no response in tandem to any of this, or you can just send it with Witch. And I mean, so many ways you can do this. It's very hard for them to deal with this, especially if they're not on Amaterasu, and because Kukulane you can respond with Witch, and Kukulane doesn't hit Marlboro because it's not a forward. So this card is dangerous, very lethal, very scary. Marlboro's always been scary. That's one of the points of the card. So yeah, respect the card, respect the monsters, respect yourself. Blue Worm, when it enters the field, draw a card, and for no cost, to the end of your turn, Blue Worm becomes a forward with 6k power. At the end of the turn, break Blue Worm. So this is one of those cards, you play it, you draw a card, you wait for the opportunity to turn into a forward, you attack with it. If they block and it's gonna be destroyed anyway, you send it off with Witch to get their knowledge and to actually burn something for 7k. So Blue Worm's pretty standard in really any monster deck that's running water. Next is Black Knight. When Black Knight enters the field, choose one forward or monster of cost 2 unless your opponent controls, break it. And then for the cost of 5, 2 lightning CP, and then 3 whatever, put Black Knight into the break zone, choose one forward or monster, break it. I can see that second ability being used, but I feel like that's more of an emergency ability. I feel like the first one is to deal with stuff that you don't really want to use a Witch of the Fens on, or you don't really want to attack over. So I'm just gonna play this, get rid of the threat, and move on with my life. Moth Slasher. During your turn, Moth Slasher also becomes a forward with 7k. When Moth Slasher is put from the field into the break zone, you may search for one card, Moth Slasher, of cost 2 or less, and play it onto the field. Damage 3, it gets 1,000. So that last ability, when it goes to the break zone, you may search for another one called itself. Means that there may be more Moth Slashers coming later on down the line, which is good. And the fact that this is one of those cards that you can't block with it on your opponent's turn, but if they block it and blow it up, no, it won't have haste, but it gives you like more facility for Witch. So I swing with it, you block, I'm getting another one. And if I need to get rid of something else, or finish off what you just blocked with, I'm sending the slasher, and then I'm gonna get another one if I have one more. So really good card, really good recyclability, and yeah, it's pretty nasty if you ask me. Emperor Gastal. I thought I was the only person that played this card. When it enters the field, you may discard one card. When you do so, choose one forward in your break zone, add it to your hand. And then for the cost of 1 CP of whatever and dulling him, put him into the break zone, choose 4 cards in your opponent's break zone, remove them from the game. If these cards are of all the same type, also draw a card. So of all the same type means if they're all backups, if they're all forwards, if they're all monsters. This is good for stuff like Mist Dragon, or cards that don't banish for cost. So your opponent targets a card, you play this, you put them into the break zone, you banish 4 cards, and if they're all the same, backup, forward, summon, whatever, you get to draw a card. So he replaces himself and then stops a potential threat. So really good card, really insane. Don't sleep on stuff like this, because this cards that let you get back things while also sending things, it's kind of good. And there's ways to loop this, and I guess I'll make a video showing you how to do that as well. Lena, or Lena if you're nasty. Okay, her EX burst is when your opponent uses an EX burst, draw a card. So if she goes to damage, you just draw a card. And then her raise ability is throw away a copy of Lena, pay 1 water CP, dull her, choose 1 forward of cost 3 or less in your break zone, play it onto the field. So that is Witch, Lightning, and Lightning. So all of which are insane on entry. So that's, I don't even need to talk about that anymore. King or Burmecia. When he enters the field, you may search for 1 card named Dragoon or 1 job named Dragoon and add it to your hand. That's gonna be Arania, so he's just to search her out when you need her. Merowib. When she enters the field, search for 1 water forward, add it to your hand. That's pretty self-explanatory. Sarah. When Sarah enters the field, search for 1 job king, princess, or prince and add it to your hand. So that's gonna be Burmecia, Lena. I don't think any of these don't even have jobs. I don't even know one over here. Savior, Red Mage. Okay, so it's only the search, the king, and Lena. Or self, if you wanted to do that for whatever reason. And finally, the strongest Reeve in the game, I think. EX Burst. When it enters the field, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, which means you do not have to show your opponent. Add 1 card among them to your hand and return the others to the bottom of the deck in any order. This card's stupid good, because you get a card and then you get to really move the cards in the order to the bottom of the deck in any order that you would like. The only thing that sucks about this is if you hit like 3 EX bursts, and you know how many you're on. This deck's on 19. You know that I might be in a bad spot because I just moved 3 EX bursts, 1 to my hand and then the other 2 to the bottom. So this card's good, but it's also like a skill-based card because you have to know the placement of how many EX bursts compared to what you have in your hand, what's on the field, what's in the break zone, what's in damage. So just keep that in mind. Alright, the LBs. I'm gonna start with Edge. Edge is when it enters the field until the end of the turn, all of your forwards of Lightning, Job Ninja, and Incarnate Ninja gain. When this forward attacks, choose 1 for your opponent controls, deal it 7k. So this is, I mean, it's alright. The only ones using this are Aranea, Lightning, and Moth Slasher. So it's useful if you have it, but I mean it's not the greatest in this deck. Luna Freya. When she enters the field, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, add 1 card among them to your hand, and return the others to the bottom of the deck in any order. If the card added to your hand has an EX burst, you can add it to the stack. Well, you can trigger it, but it will be added to the stack. So you got Reeve, the King, Lena, Odin, Leviathan, and Aranea. So all these are good to trigger, especially these Odins, because that means you can just, if you're on damage 5 or 6, you can play this for super cheap, and destroy potentially 2 cards, and then you can play this for 3 as well, closely, if you have that many lightning cards in the break zone. Destroy 2 cards, destroy 3, and if you're on damage 5, play it again to destroy 3 and a 5. Search for a Dragoon, draw a card, move stuff around. So Luna Freya is really good. Nyx, if a lightning character or category 15 character you control has been put from the field into the break zone, Nyx is reduced by 4 this turn. I say this turn because you can't play it on your opponent's turn, so it just makes him cost 1, which enables this edge as well, because he is a lightning. He's just a wall, 9k wall, which could come in handy. You never know. Tomberry and Cactuar. When they enter the field, select one of the following actions. Choose 1 active forward of cost 3 or less. Break it. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck. Add 1 card among them to your hand. Return it to the bottom of the deck. Just a good warrior card. Break something or draw something. So that's good. Cloud, just good. Just breaks a forward of cost 3 or less. It's just good. Leo, let you draw. So all in all, this deck is pretty solid. Pretty strong. Really, the best way to stop this deck is to make sure you can handle the EX burst and you stop this card. If you stop the Witch, everything else is pretty manageable because these do nothing. Well, Moth Slasher does. I mean, maybe Marlboro, but if Witch isn't out, then you don't really have to worry about the monsters as much. And these backups don't really, I mean, other than the Emperor, they don't really get back her. So you get rid of the Witch, you're sitting pretty. And if you don't have any or a lot of 3 cost forwards, then Cloud does nothing, Tomberry does nothing as far as destruction, Aranea does nothing as far as entry or EX. Now this card, Lightning and Lightning, these will be a problem, and then obviously these summons will be a problem, but this card is really the bare bones of the deck. And as long as you can deal with this, I would say the deck's pretty manageable. The issue is you may not know that this is what they're playing, and if you don't know that, then it's kind of hard to stop what your opponent's doing. And it's not like we have cards like Trickstar Reincarnation that can banish your opponent's whole hand and they draw X amount more. So yeah, congrats to the winner of this deck. I told you guys monsters were gonna be a problem, and monsters are here, so I don't think they're gonna slow up at any time soon. Now anybody that wants to copy this list, I would suggest that you don't. If you want to look at other people's deck, I would look at the theme and see what it is, and then go from there. Use your own creative juices, because 1, you don't know what the person was thinking when they made this deck. 2, everybody that's looking at this deck may have the same idea, and it's saying that 224 views. I don't know how big the Final Fantasy community is, but this is just a good blueprint for things. But always use your own mind, always use your own thoughts, always use your own creativity, because that's what's going to bring you to victory. Be yourself, be original, be true. This is New Never You, and if you didn't know, now you do. Peace.